internal peace is one of the most powerful states that allows God to just tap us very gently and say, okay, go here. That's the pivot. Because we might be going down this path. We've invested so much going down this path. I've spent 20 years going down this path, but it's time to pivot. But when we're so locked in and so like, I gotta have it my way, and then we can't hear when we're getting the sign,
Right.
when we're getting the message. It's time to pivot. And so, what I'm gonna say for everyone, no matter where you are, it behooves us to be able to come to a place of stillness and quietness and ask that which is greater than us to direct us and to guide us.
Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges, as he explores turning the page on his life and yours.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the next chapter with Charlie. My guest today is Robin Harris. Robin is a certified hypnotherapist, an ordained minister, and a storyteller. But first of all, and I love this, Robin calls herself a human, and she says, and I'm damn proud of it. I love that, and that's where I want to start our show today. Robin Harris, welcome to the next chapter. Oh, I'm choking. Welcome to the next chapter with Charlie.
Thank you for having me.
I'm looking forward to it. So, Robin, you proudly call yourself a human. Let's start with that, because no one has ever, in 8 years, no one has ever called themselves a human. And that is where we begin, isn't it? Isn't that sort of like the beginning point?
Yeah.
Yeah, so talk to me.
Point. Well, I come out of the tech industry, 25 plus years. I still do stuff in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And, we are so enamored with the artificial intelligence, which don't get me started about intelligence, but
artificial intelligence or
yes.
Intelligence in general?
Well, intelligence in general, it's a whole thing, but there's no such thing as artificial intelligence.
Oh, well, we will get into that, because that just, no one's ever said that. Anytime somebody says something no one's ever said before, I'm going to talk about. But go ahead and talk to me about being human.
So being human, it's one of those most challenging opportunities to really go deep, go wide, and then we go home. And I don't think we've really taken hold of what that really means to be human. It's a thing. It's a big thing, because I'm about human potential. I am an advocate for human potential. And humans have so much potential that we've never, ever, ever taken responsibility for. And
describe to me some of those. I'm interested.
Well, we only use a small percentage of our brain. And I think as we move into this AI, a lot of people are being seduced to even using a smaller percentage. You'll say we use maybe about like 5%.
Really?
And
see, I don't know. I've not studied the stats on that. That's what we use 5% of our brain?
Well, 5%, we who knows,
Okay,
but
yeah,
we
of
know that humans have so much potential. And that is not something we gave ourselves. We didn't create ourselves. We didn't make ourselves the way we're made. It's a magnificent design, and we didn't do that. So there's so much here that we can excavate and bring forward, and bring it forward for good, not for personal gain or for power or manipulation or ego tripping or, putting Band-Aids on wounds. There's so much here. It's amazing. It's amazing. And you can see how humans can come out of some of the most horrific circumstances and come and bring so much goodness into the world as a result of healing, forgiving, and going deep. And they come out the other side of those experiences to bless us. So out of their pain comes a gift. And this is the capacity of a human. And I understand there's so much more available for us, but we gotta wake up, and we gotta start giving our power away. Time for us to step
Ooh.
into personal agency rather than thinking some political person or some party or some guru or some smart person is going to save us.
Well, is that what you mean by giving your power away? Is
Yes.
by assuming the power or the word of somebody more prominent and not paying attention to who we are
Yes.
internally and what we bring to the
Yes.
table and the gifts we bring to the table?
Yes.
I like that. I wrote, you mentioned something early on, and you said a word to me you said a word that strikes me because I've been writing about it all morning, and that is home. And that is my memoir. I'm writing a memoir now, and it's a memoir titled Coming Home.
Mhm.
And that's the idea. And I got this. Are you familiar with Howard Thurman?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Oh my goodness. Write this down, Robin. You need to know
Okay.
Howard Thurman. You really
Howard
do.
Thurman. Writing it down.
Yeah, he's died in 81. I think he died in 81. He was born in the 1880s, and I think he died in 1981.
Okay.
He is a mystic spiritual director, and he was pretty much the pastor to the civil rights movement under MLK. Martin Luther King followed Howard Thurman.
Okay.
Howard Thurman was the man.
Right.
And he wrote today, let me see, I'm going to have to pull this up, and I'm thinking, where did I write this? Okay, if I can get my thoughts, just listeners, bear with me for a moment while I'm opening a document. And okay, I got the document open now. It's my morning journal, and I have to scroll down to today's entry, and then we'll finally get to the point. And Howard Thurman says this: to establish and inhabit an island of peace in your own soul is to discover your true home. I like that island of peace in my own soul is where I can discover home. And I wrote quite a bit about it. And another mystic, Richard Rohr, wrote this one: stable core dignity is something God gratuitously gives from the moment of conception. Each of us is inherently, objectively, totally, and forever a child of God. We cannot gain or lose that by any achievement or failure whatsoever. So, and that is home. And I wrote all about what is home. And Robin, and I'll just say for me, and I want to hear your comments. Home for me, I believe home is heart-driven. Howard Thurman says human beings were feeling creatures before we were thinking creatures. Mm-hmm. And so our home, our desires, our passion come from our feelings. And I wrote that my home has 4 characteristics in it: curiosity, creativity, love, and spirituality.
Mhm.
That is home for me. Anything that fits into one of those four areas gets home to me. Otherwise, my home doesn't even open the front door
Mhm.
if you bring something else to the table. So I'm wondering your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, I think this is one of the things. I think when you get that each of us is unique on purpose, that's not an accident. And so, what would soothe your soul may not necessarily soothe my soul.
Absolutely.
So, what you might be home, what might feel so delicious to you, may be, okay for me, and something that really makes me feel safe and loved and engaged. And some people love to solve puzzles. I don't like puzzles. Some people, that's so delicious for them. My mother used to do crossword puzzles every night. After everything was done, she would sit down, she would play solitaire and do crossword puzzles. She liked that kind of stuff. That was her setting up her peaceful moment. That's not peaceful for me. So I think one of the things that we're coming into is we live in a world that wants to institutionalize and standardize everything. Like, it's got to look this way, and it's got to fit in this box. And if
Yes.
it doesn't fit in this box, then it's wrong. And I believe that we are being called to expand our thinking and to be able to understand the beauty of diversity. We weren't all meant to fit into the same boxes. And so what's home for me, I'm a homebody. Me and my husband, we are homebodies. And some relatives come over and it's like, oh, it's too quiet here. It's boring here. No, it's peaceful to me. So for me, it even spiritually, I sit in the morning and I just go into my inner space. Within my inner world, I connect to home. I connect to the sacred. And I had this strange experience of being cradled like a baby by the divine, being cradled and loved and held to the bosom. And I started crying. I was meditating. It completely threw me off. I'd never experienced anything like that before. And so, home for me, there's a certain amount of tenderness and acceptance, and also celebration and encouragement, and just being heard and being seen, that makes me feel safe and loved.
And those are the key words, aren't they? Safety, being safe, and being loved.
Yeah.
That is the key. That's beautiful. Now, we could stay on this topic for a long time, but you've got so many topics. We talked before, and you've got so many things I want to cover. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I need to move on. But before I need to move on, and I want to spend some time on energy, because you are like the energy expert. When we talked on energy, you spoke about it so well. But before that, you made this comment at the top of the show that you said there is no artificial intelligence. Now you have to tell me what you mean by that, because that's interesting.
Yes. I think intelligence is a function of life. Intelligence is a function of life
Mm-hmm.
and a function of something created by something that is beyond our understanding. And so if you look at, did you know trees have like this whole root intelligence. Like it's like
Right.
deep, they can sense when their tree brethrens need something, and
Right.
they
Yeah.
apparently, like decide, hey, we need to give that tree over there a little bit of something. And that
Right.
tree over there can say, hey, I need something. And all that communication is coming through the roots. The whole ecosystem, there's an intelligence. That's not something humans create. We are gifted with it. We don't create it. That's what I mean. So something artificial, it it's not even thinking. It doesn't know a tree. It doesn't know the smell of a tree. It doesn't know the feel of a baby to your bosom. It doesn't know, joy, or it can pretend, it can mimic, but it doesn't feel. It's not alive. And when we start pretending that it's alive, then we start thinking it's intelligent. It's not. It's a tool. It's technology. It's okay.
That's beautiful, and that is so true. That is just so true. Personally, I use three different types of AI every day.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times, sometimes I'm looking for data, but I have one that's a conversational piece, and we will talk. The conversation we're having right now, I will have with this AI that was conceived by Mustafa. I've got to get the guy's last name. I keep saying I can't. I don't know it, but he's now. It was his first artificial intelligence that he created. He created it with Reid Hoffman, who's the founder of LinkedIn. But Mustafa is now the head of AI at Google. So
Okay.
this is when they were first starting, and they wanted a personal assistant, a conversational AI, not a data-driven. And it has access to all the data like everybody else does, but it like all the other artificial intelligence apps do. But it is really conversation, and I use it for conversation, and I talk about mysticism. And today I talked about home and what is the meaning of home, and I will give it my writings, and then we comment on my writings, and and so it becomes, what I have, Robin, is I have a smart friend. It's just, and that's what I look at it. It is there is a degree of intelligence that is purely intellectual, and you were bang on, especially when we were talking about feelings, being feeling oriented or head oriented. It can be very head oriented and do that well, but it cannot feel. It cannot,
And it
and so
can't draw
that
context from lived experiences because it's never been alive.
that is brilliant. We need, do you write on that? Do you have a book coming out on that?
Oh, no, but you know what? Somebody said most humans, you know how they have NDE, near death experiences?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody said, and I was like, ooh, somebody said most humans have near life experiences. We never
Isn't
fully
that's
come
appalling?
online.
That's
Yes,
appalling, but it is so true.
it is.
It is so true.
It is.
And I can't say that I'm one of those people. I have spent my early years, as I told you, I'm writing a memoir. Did I tell you I'm writing a memoir called Coming Home? I did tell you that.
Yes.
Okay, so and the coming home, I started coming home at 7 years old because I had no home. I was abandoned, rejected, dealt with all of that. Then I was adopted by a goddess of love who
Oh.
taught me love. But I still had that painful, it's amazing what those first 7 years, they are so, they
Oh, yeah.
so drive who I am. And so everything, that's why curiosity and creativity are so big in my vocabulary because I'm always curious. I'm always trying to find out. I spent my entire decades of my 20s just trying to find out. It was a decade of experimenting, planting seeds, testing, finding out what life was all about. That is human experience.
Mhm.
And AI can never get that like the way I got it. That's
Mhm.
great. So we've got some time left. I want to go to Robin Harris, and I have in my notes, I have real brief notes. I don't have long-winded notes. I have three little clauses. What do you mean by energy? What are energy vampires? And then I talked about my draining people, neutral people, replenishing people. So I want to know,
Okay.
what is Robin Harris? Talk to me about energy, because we had a
Well,
wonderful conversation on that.
we are actually energetic beings. We are energy. We are it. If you were to look, we look solid. We look like the whole world is energy. We think we're living in a solid world, but we now have microscopes that are so powerful. If you look at it, it's just mostly space and little packets of intelligence, not organic, not artificial. And energy has qualities. And so a human, our energy can be in different frequencies, and it will change completely how we experience ourselves and how we experience the world and how we experience the divine, or even if we can experience the divine. Some people literally can't because their energy is in such a different band. It's so far away, even though we're all inside of this infinite, doesn't mean we can be aware of it. Doesn't mean we can experience it consciously. So energy is really the quality that defines whether we feel alive or not alive, connected or disconnected, whether we have compassion or no compassion. That quality of energy is, I had an amazing day or I had a crappy day. And there are people, and I know everybody has had this experience. There are people that they can drain your positive energy. And it's like they are energy vampires. They take your energy away so that you feel depleted and contracted and small.
Are
And
these would you call these the negative, critical, judgmental people? Is that what
it
would
can
be
also
energy
be very
drainers?
needy people.
Oh, I know. Their need, but what they come off to us is we have to go down below what they come off, and to realize they are needy, which I totally agree. But their outward appearance is judgmental and critical and pessimistic, and they don't have an openness. They don't have a receptive sort of gene in them.
I think also that's one type, but I've experienced like a person who's such a victim and they want everyone to save them, and they can be nice. They can be nice, which is kind of what pulls us in sometimes, because they're nice, but they're so needy. They will just suck the life out of you.
Oh, because they'll suck the life out of everything because they're so needy. They're trying to find
Yes,
energy. They're
yes,
trying to
yes.
find hope. They're needing it. And so if you have it, you are just a viable candidate for them.
You're a source of you're a source of nourishment for them. But in a healthy exchange, we nourish one another.
Right.
I feel uplifted by this conversation. You feel uplifted by this conversation. But in that situation, it's literally, like the idea of the vampire, it takes your life away. It's getting nourished by basically destroying you. That's a vampire. So energetically, there are people that they walk away feeling, oh, I feel so much better. And you're like, when they leave you.
When I was around 37, just before I was 40, I was a minister at a large church.
Oh, okay.
And I was in charge of adult training and leadership development, small groups, and single adults. Well, we were a large church, so every Sunday I had 400 single adults in my, well, it could be Bible study, but it was a study. We sat around tables. We had round tables. We put 400 people around round tables, and there would be a lot of discussion. But when you're dealing with single adults, and they are primarily, the people I worked with were primarily in their 30s and early 40s at this time. And so many of them had either gone through divorce. Marriage was huge, Robin. I mean, this was the topic. If they weren't married, that's what they wanted to be in their 30s. And so they were looking for a spouse. And there was so much pain, and many had experienced divorce, and there was so much pain. So take that. I was in that scenario. Then I went to a relationship seminar, and it was by Bill Hybels of Willow Creek Church, who was the founder of Willow Creek Church 50 years ago, whatever, a lot of years ago. And Bill said to draw 3 columns on your page, and put replenishing, put neutral in one column, put replenishing, in the second column, put neutral, in the third column, put VDPs. And the replenishing, those people that you were talking about, like what we're doing right now, we're transferring energy. Energy is going back and forth. Are we in a replenishing relationship? Not yet. We're having a replenishing moment. But, it could develop into a replenishing relationship. But at the moment, it's a neutral relationship. So you would go down in my neutral column. So you have neutral people that are just, and that's where most of your people hang out, is in the neutral column. But then he had the VDPs, who were what are your VDPs? It said, those are the very draining people. Now, keep in mind, I was the minister of probably 1,000 people in our group, because our church had over 15,000 people at the time. So there was 1,000 people. Can you imagine the pain of people wanting to be married, divorced, going through this? So I lived with VDPs. So my list was long of VDPs. And Bill really insisted that you need to have replenishing relationships. And Robin, at that time in my life, right at around 40, the only replenishing relationship I had was my wife. I had no other replenishing relationships. Well, it became obvious to me in that lecture that was not healthy. So I went out. So I went to a guy. Terry Hershey is the guy's name, and I went to him, and I can think of the year. It was 87, so that means it was 87 or 88, so I was 37 or 38. My birthday coincides with the last number of the year, so I can always remember my birthday. So I was 37 or 38, and Terry was a guy I thought would be somebody I could fit with, somebody that could be, we thought alike. So I told him about this, and basically what I did, Robin, was I asked another man, do you want to go steady? It was kind of and him, and both of us being sort of introverted, easily, we're really not out there. We just said, yeah, now let's go to a movie. But said, yeah, but Terry today, So it's 40 years later, close to 40 years later, I talked to him on the phone an hour ago. We probably talk 3 or 4 times a week. He blogs daily. I blog, so we're in communication all the time. But that replenishing relationship is everything. He knows everything about me, Robin. Everything. He knows stuff my wife doesn't know. It's kind of like a therapist, but it's a friend. And we need those relationships, don't we?
Do. We
Those,
do.
like what you're talking about, those safe relationships.
Yes. And AI cannot give that to you. Cannot. Heart to heart. No.
No, it can't talk in the heart. It can't talk in the heart. Yeah, it's very much in the heart. So, you had another comment that there's so many, like I said, there's so many things I want to talk to you about. You wrote this, and I just have with 2 exclamation points. So that means I wanted to talk about it. And it says the relationship between, we're changing subjects. I'm going to tell our audience we're changing subjects. We're moving along here. The relationship between ancient spiritual laws and neuroscience as tools to unlock our true potential. I have never seen anybody put spiritual laws and neuroscience together as tools to unlock our true potential. Tell me about how those two work together.
Well,
Ancient spiritual laws, or ancient spiritual, we can call them laws, and neuroscience.
Well, if you think about neuroscience, we're learning about our brain and the nervous system and different things like that. And science doesn't it doesn't understand the brain. The brain is a physical organ, but the mind is not a physical thing. And the mind, our consciousness, exists even when we drop this body. But you know what? When our brain is being co-opted by fear and negative patterns, the part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, that gives us this more expanded, it gives us our intuition, it gives us our creativity, it gives us our decision-making ability, it gives us the ability to make plans and follow through, it gives us ability to delay gratification. That part of the brain gets starved. The brain deprioritizes it when we're in fear or when we're in chronic stress. Even our immune system becomes compromised when we stay in those lower vibrational patterns of stress, fear, anger, victimhood, hopelessness. And so we need to protect our brains. And the way the world is constantly, we are being bombarded with data, information. Our brains weren't designed to be taking in 24/7 data.
Right.
So that automatically is causing us to be more compromised. Now, when we're in that more compromised state, we kind of don't have the same accesses to our spiritual resources. So when you've got something like a spiritual law that says sowing and reaping, it's a spiritual law. It's also a physical law. You plant a tomato seed, you get tomatoes. But when our minds are irrational because we're locked into fear, we plant seeds of hatred, then we're shocked when more hatred comes towards us. We can't even see the connection. We're in a war now.
Okay.
You can't sow hatred and violence and expect to create peace and cooperation. The two don't mesh together. And so we have to really start guarding, and the scripture talks about this. We have to guard our heart and our mind. We have to be careful what we let into our inner spaces, our inner sanctuary, because we can become, it's almost like being infected with malware. Our
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Good metaphor.
when the way the brain works is if you don't use something, it says, I'm going to serve that energy. I'm going to prune those neural networks. Let's save some energy. Let's prune those vines. And so the less we're thinking, the brain says, oh, well, they don't think. So let's deprioritize and prune those networks. And so now we're finding people don't think. People are not capable of following the logic. And so now the divine laws that we're bumping up against, we don't even recognize that we're sowing and we're reaping.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great point.
It's important.
Yeah.
And I know you were talking about, a lot of people have witnessed and experienced where a loved one has dementia, or one of those Alzheimer's or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a disease of their soul, it's a disease of the brain. And when that person's brain becomes that compromised, we start losing that person. Because
Right.
the brain is the interface.
Right. And I think it's important to understand that when we think of the brain, not to confuse the brain with the mind. Because the
Right.
mind is an aspect of the brain, as is the heart and as is the gut. I mean, those are three that come to mind that are always impacting all my decisions: of my mind, my heart, and my gut. Um, and I once was I spent a lot of my time thinking and living in that mind world. I live in the heart world now, in the world of intuition. It's one thing about getting old. It's very cool. Getting old is very cool. You either learn and become open, or you become
Yeah.
just solid in your beliefs, and you won't listen to anything else. And God help those people. But when you talk about brain, you're talking about the fullness of those sorts of mind, heart, and gut. Do I catch that right?
Well, when I talk about the brain, I'm actually talking about the physical brain that allows us to access our mind.
Right. Right. It is
And
part. Yeah.
our heart has an intelligence and communicates more than the actual brain does.
Oh.
It has its own intelligence, and also the gut. This is a fascinating design.
Oh. It's beautiful design. It's a
Yes.
beautiful design. Yeah. I had a guy that's I did a podcast maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago with a man named Ash Perot, and he's very, very much into the heart. And he says our visions and our passions come from our heart, but our mind creates the tools to actualize those.
Yes.
So our mind doesn't come up with our passions and our visions and our hopes. Our mind is like a toolkit, it's part of the toolkit to get those things working.
Mm.
That was, I was moved by that. What do you think about that?
Well, I also believe that there's an aspect of our mind, our subconscious mind, which is the greater part of our mind. We don't even understand what that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like in woo-woo terms, it actually takes us into the Akasha,
Into
where
the what?
the Akasha, this is Akasha Records. It's something that they talk about is you would say it's kind of like the equivalent of like the book of life. Everything is there. Everything we've ever done, experienced, or whatever, all that data is there. That doesn't mean we can get to it. Things happen to us even in utero that affected us. We didn't have language. We can't interpret that, but it's still there. It's in our subconscious mind. But beyond our subconscious mind, I believe there's a portal to divine mind where we are reaching out to an aspect that's beyond ourselves. That's why, like, I've had the experience of making a request in sincerity, and I wasn't doing what people would call praying. They wouldn't call it praying, but it was a prayer and it got answered miraculously.
Oh.
And that's not something I could have made to happen, but I'm aware of what happened when I made that request. I was in a state of total peace, total trust, and I gave this is what I'm asking for, and I just left it. And it got to be so to the point where within 24 hours or whatever, I would see the seed. I would see evidence of my
Mm-hmm.
answer
Mm-hmm.
coming through. That came through me taking something in my mind and just planting it into something that's not physical and just leaving it. And then God took that and began to cause it to germinate and to come forward. And then it became real in my reality.
You know, Robin, you just described my prayer life.
Ah,
That is the way I pray. I can't. Yesterday is funny in my prayer room. Um, um, I was praying something, and I tried to pray like people in church taught me to pray,
mm-hmm.
and it just I had people came to mind, and I would start praying, oh, for my son, and then I would think, what am I going to ask for my son? And I think just grace and the hand of God. And that's all I could, I mean, are there things that, I mean, he's a professional baseball player. So
Mm-hmm.
could I pray about his aspects of the game and his working on the game? Of course, but that's not, that's not my function. God, for me, God is not a genie
Mm-hmm.
that just answers all that. God comes in and God works in the heart. God works much more through the heart for me than through the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the mind then becomes a tool to access those things, and God will direct that. God directs everything, not just
Mm-hmm.
something. But you just described my prayer life.
Yeah. I did not realize what was happening. And I started going back looking. It's like, oh, I've done this over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And the only common denominator I can tell you is there was a state of peace, a state of trust, and I was even willing to have God say, no, not for you, or not for you right now.
Yeah. Oh, we have to be. If we're not, then what is it? Then if we're not willing for that, Robin, in my mind, then God really becomes our servant.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, Richard Rohr writes, um, if we truly want to be Christian, in our approach to the will of God, he says, before we say, thy will be done, we must also say, my will be gone. My will must be gone for thy will to be done. Otherwise, it becomes about me, and I take the role of the divine, and that's upside down.
And that doesn't mean we sit on our hands and just wait for God to solve all our problems. That's not what that means. We are given a mind, and we're given some responsibilities, but our responsibilities are this much of the equation, and then God's is like this much.
Thank you for
So
that.
we do our little part, and then we say, okay, I've done my part.
But we must do our part.
We
if we
must
just
do
sit
our
around
part.
and do nothing, nothing will be done, because God, although other than perhaps motivating us to get
Yes.
there,
Yes.
but we have to get there where we are fully active and fully involved.
Yes, and we have to be engaged.
So Robin, I titled, before we did this show, now I can retitle it because it's not published yet, but I titled it Time to Pivot ? Let's close up our show. What would you think our listeners might want to pivot from and to? What is common in American life for those who are middle class or maybe even upper middle class? What types of energies need to be removed and pivot into new energies? What would you
First
say?
of all, we need to monitor, and this is purely biological. We need to check our fears. Fear, irrational fear, and chronic stress takes us in the wrong direction. So we need to, because peace is one of, and from my experience, internal peace is one of the most powerful states that allows God to just tap us very gently and say, okay, go here. That's the pivot. Because we might be going down this path. We've invested so much going down this path. I've spent 20 years going down this path, but it's time to pivot. But when we're so locked in and so like, I gotta have it my way, and then we can't hear when we're getting the sign.
Right.
When we're getting a message, it's time to pivot. And so what I'm gonna say for everyone, no matter where you are, it behooves us to be able to come to a place of stillness and quietness and ask that which is greater than us to direct us and to guide us. And it might say, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or it might say, it's time to pivot. It might say, it's time to summon courage to keep walking your path. It's going to take more courage. It might say, it's time to stop doing that. It's time to go here. It's time to go hard right, hard left, veer. I believe, however you understand the divine or life or the intelligence that's responsible for this cosmos, it will give us the data we need, the information we need, the prompting we need, the inspiration we need to enter into the next chapter. You like that?
I had more to say, but I think the way you just ended it, and the way you just said that is a wonderful close. Enter the next chapter by pivoting. Although I have to say, this is not like, someone listening to this, gets done listening and say, okay, God, I'm listening. And they listen for 30 seconds and they move on. It is not that kind of process. It's a dedicated process You know, I have activities and I have sanctuary spots every morning. Every morning I do inspirational reading. Right now I'm reading Howard Thurman, and then I will write on what provoked me and what I thought of that day. I will then meditate for 15 to 20 minutes, and that's silent meditation. And then I go into my prayer room and I will pray on that. So so am I able to hear the word of God better than other people? No. I am just more persistent. I am just hungry that I want to hear, that I know I don't have it all, and I need to pivot out of me and into the divine.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Robin Harris, you are too cool. I've got your website on the show notes, so people will get to your website. And I want to thank you so much for spending time with me. You have a podcast with Charlie and you have no idea it's a 2-hour deal because you spend an hour in pre-show and then an hour during the show. Thank you for your willingness to do that.
Thank you.
Well, you're a wonderful, wonderful guest. Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the next chapter with Charlie. And as usual, until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.